Hello and welcome to another episode of The Bookie and the Beano, where we discuss the debits and credits of being an accountant or bookkeeper in the digital world we operate in. I'm Kane Munro, owner of Active Outsourcing and Accountancy Online, and with me, as always, is Diane Lucas, superstar bookkeeper, consultant, and owner of Direct Management. Di, how you going?
I'm well, Kane. How's it with you?
Very well. We're easing our way into sort of almost winter-like conditions now in Melbourne, so I'm just trying to keep warm as much as anything
I know.
else.
It's time to rug up and turn heaters on, isn't it?
Yeah, well, coming up, of course, is QuickBooks Connect in Melbourne. You'll be there, I'll be there. Bookie and the Beano will be there. You looking forward to it?
I think that should be very joyful. It's in our home city, isn't it?
Exactly.
Melbourne.
Coffee will be much better than when we were in Sydney the last couple of years. So welcoming everyone in the accounting and bookkeeping industry and small businesses to come along to QuickBooks Connect. You can register at au.quickbooksconnect.com and you can use the code QBC19Kane to get 40% off your ticket. They're selling fast, so get in quickly.
Or QBC19 Diane.
Well, this is true. This is true. Use either of them, and QuickBooks can find out who actually are registered via what login. So
next time we'll get one called Bookie.
We will get that. So what we want to discuss today, Di, is valuing yourself to add value to your clients. And this is a bit similar to a session you're going to be running at QuickBooks Connect on the Advisors Day, day 2 of that conference as well. Some of these will intersect with, I guess, on the day, valuing what you do as a bookkeeper especially, won't it?
Yeah, it's about enhancing your skills and having the confidence to actually step out and be confident in what you do in the industry that we've chosen.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more, I guess, about this and why this is a topic and an issue which is close to your heart.
It is very close to my heart. I was at a bookkeeper conference a few weeks back and was speaking to lots of different bookkeepers. And what came up repeatedly was the lack of, I guess, confidence of the bookkeeper to make a stand in what they do as a profession. And what I mean by that is there was a very strong perception that I'm just a bookkeeper. And I am there just to do compliance things. And I am pretty much controlled by outside forces, and those outside forces being business owners and accountants, which really concerns me a great deal because I think there's a perception of lack of professionality in some people's concerns or perceptions of themselves as a bookkeeper, which I think is inherently false as well.
Now, why is that? Why do you think that is? Like, some of this is to do with the person involved or the people involved who are acting as a bookkeeper. But why do you think that there is? I guess people have that self-perception, but then also some business owners and accountants will have that perception also.
I think some people don't push back as hard as they possibly should, and by that I mean is a bookkeeper is doing the work that they understand and they know and they hopefully love, but they're not necessarily doing it with the concept of how can I be creating value for my client in the role that I play in this business. So the perception of the business owner to what they consider to be a bookkeeper duty is sometimes, I think, skewed as well then too. So some business owners have an expectation of what bookkeeping constitutes, and when they come up against someone like myself who then starts talking about effective business practices and how we can assist you to streamline processes and things like that, either they embrace it wholeheartedly and say, wow, this is amazing, I've not had anyone else have this discussion with me before, or they go, hey, that's not what a bookkeeper does, and they'll move on elsewhere, which I say hallelujah to.
Now, do I understand you're a little bit different to the traditional bookkeeper in inverted commas, where you are geared towards a little bit more around consulting and not, I guguess, the meat and three veg of just doing day-to-day transactions, which a lot of bookkeepers do. I guess for me, like, I'm an accountant. I don't really interact with that many bookkeepers. You're one of the bookkeepers I do interact with. But I go to an accounting conference when there's a mix of accountants and bookkeepers there. And this might sound a little bit controversial in inverted commas, but the demographic of bookkeepers seem to be a specific demographic where accountants, you kind of get a mix of genders and race and ages, where bookkeepers seem to always be, I guess, more sort of middle-aged ladies who maybe have had kids and gone back to, I guess, bookkeeping more as a notional job rather than running a business. Is that fair or unfair?
I think it's a fair statement.
And this is 80% of
80-20 rule,
80% of bookkeepers.
Yeah. And that could be part of the underlying issue as to where the confidence comes from, or lack of confidence comes from, the lack of valuing themselves, but also the perception, I guess, of I'm not necessarily running my business with a business mindset.
Yeah.
And I think that's a concern. I think if you are a bookkeeper running your own business as a solopreneur, that's fantastic and kudos to you. But you are running a business and you need to be seen as being a professional in that regard. And a favourite example of mine, I think, in this context is my mechanic example.
Okay.
And so if you were getting your car serviced and you took your car to the mechanics, would you hang over the hood watching the mechanic do every little, screw and twist and turn and oil change bit? I'm
not a car person. I would barely even know how to pop the hood.
That's right, exactly. And so when the mechanic identifies some sort of issue, no doubt they give you a call and say, hey, we've discovered X, Y, Z, and it's going to cost this much to fix. Are you okay with that? And then at the end of the day, you've got a car that's running smoothly, and you see them again, 10,000 Ks later. And you trust that mechanic is going to do the right thing by you and he's charging appropriately. So why is it perceived to be acceptable from a bookkeeper's perspective that the business owner can hang over your shoulder and micromanage the bookkeeping activities?
Well, it shouldn't be, but I guess it would be historically the small business owner has done that to other bookkeepers. So if you're picking up a new client as a bookkeeper or as an accountant, that if the small business owner is a micromanager or somebody who's very pushy, that they will be pushing you to do something a particular way when you kind of know that maybe that's not the right way of doing things as well. Well,
that's right. And that's exactly where I'm sort of heading is part of that too is a business owner, hanging over. If you're on site, you're here for 3 hours and last week you're only here for 2 hours or whatever it might be. And if rather than appreciating what is actually being done, it becomes a time concern and therefore, relating back to an hourly rate, which we have other issues about. Time for another discussion on that one, I think. But it's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable for a business owner to lay down the rules like that. You are the professional as a bookkeeper. You are the one to be the one to talk to the business owner and say that this is how it's done. Basically, we have ways of doing things so that it's best for your business.
Okay, so how does a bookie go about getting, I guess, the confidence to have these conversations with their clients, their small businesses, any accountants out there who are pushing back on them to do particular things? Where does this confidence come from? You've obviously got it in spades, but it's come from somewhere as well. So how did you go about this when you were starting your business and then how you've evolved to now?
Well, knowledge is power. There's no question about that.
So know your craft?
Know your craft, but also ask. Just question everything. I might come across as I have confidence in spades, but absolutely not. And, this is one of those things is in our industry inherently there is a lack of confidence and lack of self-ability and things like that. And one of my big things is I really try to build up the confidence of those around me to make sure that they understand that they can do the job and to trust in themselves. They're making the right decisions. But also, it's okay to fail. First attempt in learning. I think we've talked about that one before. But so you have to just, ask people. And when you discover something in the client's file that might have been produced by the accountant, or the business owner asks you to do something that you inherently feel is not, correct, then ask the question, run it by the accountant. Don't be kowtowed by what those business owners are telling you to do. Or if you find something that you're not quite sure about what the accountant might have done, is ask the question, ask for clarity, ask for explanation. A good accountant should be able to clarify for you why they've done a certain thing and what the benefits to the client are.
Yeah, and people don't ask questions, especially in that context, because they don't want to come across as being, I guess, stupid or unknowledgeable, or that they should in fact know why that's been done, where a lot of the time you should be questioning these things because they just don't seem right.
That's right, exactly. And the way I sort of approach that one is to, you know, in an email to the accountant is like, we've noticed X, Y, Z, and so that we can better understand, you know, how to assist our client, would you please provide some clarity around why this transaction has been added to the file?
Okay, so actually going back to something you said before, like you don't have confidence in spades, so how did you, again, you just ask questions and this gradually evolved and you're now more confident to ask questions, you're more confident in dealing with clients and dealing with accountants, and you've done this over a number of years, so you've actually built that confidence up through asking questions so you can push back because you know some of the answers, and you're also not, I guess, averse to maybe looking a bit silly in inverted commas if you may not know an answer.
Yep. But it's also, I think it definitely comes back to what I call the synergy of peers. The relationship between the bookkeeper and accountant is one of peers.
It should be. It should be. Yep. We've had this. This is one of our first podcasts, was the relationship between accountants and bookkeepers, and how accountants sometimes look down on bookkeepers because, you know, in theory their education is better than the bookkeeper's education with regards to what they do, and there's an intersection. So you have to have that level of respect with people you work with.
And so once you sort of come to that realisation that there is no us or them, we're all there to support the client, it makes that discussion with the accountant that much easier. If you consider, you know, that the question is to a peer as opposed to an accountant, then absolutely it certainly smooths that road for discussion.
Yeah, so it's really putting more value in what you do and I guess what the accountant does collectively for the client. So valuing yourself, then you can add more value to the client because you're more confident in what you can provide and get a better solution to the client. And you also don't want to put yourself and your business at risk by, I guess, just being pushed around or kowtowing to the accountant or bookkeeper, accountant or small business owner as well.
Absolutely, and that's one of the other comments that that came out in this discussion as I had with these bookkeepers, and I was absolutely flabbergasted with this one. But it was along the lines of we're talking about dodgy clients, and the comment was, "But aren't all clients dodgy?"
Oh, wow. I wouldn't want to look at his or her client book. I was just going to say just default her then, because we said the 80% before. I wouldn't want to look at their client book. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was absolutely flabbergasted by that one. And my response was, well, you don't have to work with clients like that.
Yeah, well, you have to have, again, the self-confidence and the confidence that you'll find another client to actually be able to sack a client as well. Like, you're not obliged to take every client or work with every client. If you don't have a good relationship with the client, if you know the client's doing something which is dodgy and you don't agree with it and they won't change it or, I guess, take your advice on board, you have to have some level of confidence to be able to go, okay, listen, I'm not working with you anymore, we're done.
Exactly. And, you know, especially if you're being asked to do things which, you know, you said before, does it feel right? If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. So if you're being asked to do things that compromise your values and compromise, you know, what you do as a BAS agent, then you shouldn't be doing it. And you know, if you don't have a network to reach out to ask for clarity, you know, is this right, is this wrong, then you need to actually go out and create that network.
And how would a bookkeeper go about creating a network like that? There's obviously a lot of industry bodies and there's a number of them and they're quite fragmented in the bookkeeping industry. How does a bookkeeper go about creating different relationships with other bookkeepers and support networks? Well,
absolutely. Find, you know, the network, you know, the industry body that you want to be associated with. I think, you know, I'm associated with all of them. And that's something that you don't have to be. You can always, you know, just find the one. But, you know, we've talked about ABN, ICB, AAT, those before. They have different get-togethers, coffee clubs or whatever it might be. But, you know, just in general, just I don't know, find a friend.
Yeah, a friend in the industry is really important. I've got a couple of people that I bounce things off. I'm a bit different where I tend not to take on too much on board from, I guess, the vast sort of amount of information which is out there now in the accounting and bookkeeping profession and professional service in finance. Where there's that much stuff out there, I try to filter it down to people who kind of really know their stuff. And I've got a couple of people in sort of higher accounting firms and a couple of sort of practitioners who help out with technology-based stuff, which I listen to. But I try not to listen too much of the noise as well. I don't so much have a fear of missing out. I kind of have a joy of missing out. I was listening to something, it would have been a couple of years now, about how, this particular person didn't listen to a lot in their industry, but they listened to a lot of things which were similar to their industry, and they could pull bits and pieces out of there, as opposed to just the white noise of everything just being jammed down your LinkedIn feed, or depending what Facebook groups you're in, Twitter, those sort of things. So just trying to filter out and just picking 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people, you can call them mentors, you can call them peers, that you respect their opinion of, you can bounce things off.
Exactly. Joymo, I love that one.
Yeah.
Or was it JMO?
Yeah, JOMO. Not FOMO, it's JOMO. Joy of missing out instead of the fear of missing out. I don't fear missing out on anything. I actually take joy in missing out on particular things, which I don't think actually add any value to what I do. No,
absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly on that one. But going back to find a friend, mentoring, absolutely. Find someone key that you can speak to.
Because you've started mentoring some bookkeepers as well now, haven't you?
I have. I wasn't deliberately leading into that.
No, but you have. This is really important. Well, Diane's not available for mentoring for everyone, but if you reach out to her via Booking the Beano, she might assist you. But tell me a little bit more about that. How did that relationship form?
On the back of
Scotch wine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. No. On the back of a talk that I did, these bookkeepers approached me and said, we basically would love to work for you, but we run our own businesses, and since we can't do that, can you help us, better our business?
And the worst thing that somebody can say in that instance, if you didn't have time or you want to, is no. And the person who's asked loses nothing by asking. They might just get told no. And we've all been rejected millions and millions of times in our lives across different things.
That's right.
You should never be scared of being told no if you're asking something which will be valuable to you going forward. And you were well within your rights to say no if you didn't have time, but you didn't. And now these bookkeepers have an outlet, and some of them can bounce things off as well.
And a focus that they didn't otherwise have. So an accountability partner, which is even more important.
Accountability is really important. That's something when you're running your own business as an individual, if you've got a team and you're, I guess, the leader in inverted commas of that team, that accountability to somebody or a group of people is really important, because you kind of lack that. When you're an employee, you have accountability generally to your boss or your manager or whatever that looks like. But accountability as a small business owner, which is what a lot of us accountants and bookkeepers actually are, is a really important way of getting things done.
Yeah, totally agree.
And I've started doing a bit of accountability for other people, and I guess flicking it around. So I'm trying to be accountable to actually a client of mine. I'm accountable to him for certain things which are not related to his work, and he's using me as his accountability person, where I'll touch base with him on a monthly basis and go, here are your 3 goals, how are you going meeting those? So it doesn't necessarily even have to be a peer to some extent. Sometimes it's better off when it's not a peer, as long as you have somebody you can periodically go to and just go, okay, these things are really important to me, can you hold me accountable to them?
But that's again, it's the creating value for your client.
Absolutely.
And whether it is, if, as a bookkeeper, I do the same thing with other clients. This morning, before we started, I just rang up a client because things were happening in her business world, and I just followed through with finding out what's going on with her. And so, showing some love goes a long way towards making the clients really feel valued by yourself.
And it's not hard to show love either. It's not like you said, it was just a phone call for you. It wasn't an onerous thing to do. You just touch base, and there's value there.
Yeah, totally. So it's really going back to the original topic discussion of valuing yourself so you can provide value for your clients. So it is, I implore bookkeepers to go out and increase their knowledge, challenge themselves, ask the questions, ask the hard questions. Don't be afraid to ask hard questions. Don't be afraid of rejection. And generally, if that's the sort of case, if someone that you're asking the hard questions of tells you, it's not your business to be asking those questions, well, then the alarm bell should absolutely be ringing.
Yeah, but that first step, like you mentioned there, is overcoming that fear. Because overcoming that fear is the first step to, I guess, having a better value for yourself, and then being able to provide a better, in turn, provide a better, better value for your client as well. The first step is that clearly just got to overcome the fear of asking.
Yep.
And we've all been there.
Yep, totally.
I'm an introvert with just the mask on top as well.
Well, so am I.
We're just two little wallflowers in here, just recording a podcast to help bookkeepers and accountants, I guess, get better at what we do on a daily basis.
And the accountants, who are listening to this as well, then, remember that bookkeepers are there to assist and support as well.
Now, what are you doing at QuickBooks Connect Melbourne, Di? What's your session? It's on the Advisors Day, day 2 for the bookies and the Beanos out there.
Yeah, 2 sessions, morning and afternoon. It's on, job costing, job margins using payroll. So what I'll be discussing is along the lines of, one, understanding what job costing actually is, more importantly.
Which links back to this, valuing yourself and what you offer your clients.
Yes, exactly. So, the simplicity perception of job costing is there's obviously more to it. And so being able to have clarity and confidence around understanding that allows you to provide more services and advice to your clients.
Well, if you want to see Di live on stage at QuickBooks Connect this year, it's in Melbourne on the 30th and 31st of May. It really is a fantastic event and it's almost sold out. But as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, there's a small allocation of tickets left. So do yourself a favour, as Molly Meldrum would say, and register at au.quickbooksconnect.com and use the code QBC19Kane, not the Diane one, to get 40% off. Well, that really about wraps it up for this week on Booking the Beano. Do subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. And while you're there, leave a review and also share it with your network of bookies and beanos. We'll be back soon with another episode. So until then, stay accurate.
Bye.